usually like to try to be positive around the Miami Heat, but in the preseason, it feels like we have just got more bad news than good, especially on the injury front. And it happened again with Bam Adebayo after he left yesterday's preseason game against the Atlanta Hawks with a knee injury. Now, when he was removed, the Heat announced it as a right knee contusion, said he was questionable return, ultimately did not return, which is smart anyway because it is the preseason and it's like even if he has a 1% chance of being injured, you hold him out. But the fact that he is leaving with a knee contusion, meanwhile, you already have to deal with Jovic and back soreness, Herro's foot injury, Rozier's hamstring injury, Jakucionis' hip soreness. Like, the hits just keep on rolling for the Miami Heat. But I want to send the vibes to our captain. Let's hope Bam is healthy. The injury is not anything serious, and he doesn't miss any regular season time. Hit that like button to send the good vibes towards the Heat and Bam Adebayo. But Erik Spoelstra was asked about the injury following the game, and he said he just landed awkwardly. Bam said he feels fine. We'll see when we get back to Miami. But as you saw, he was able to be out there the whole rest of the way. Just wanted to make sure it didn't go any worse, so I just kind of sat him from there. And that's, like I mentioned, very, very smart. So, yeah, he stayed in the game and was limping up a little bit, but the Heat can't afford to lose Bam Adebayo. Just simply can't. Like, I know a lot of fans are critical of Adebayo in our comment section because of his inconsistency offensively at times, but he is this leader of this organization. He is the captain, the pillar, the core defensive piece, and in my opinion, still a top 5 defensive player in the NBA, despite what the national pundits want to say, discrediting what Adebayo has done. Like, you can't lose him, and if you do, you are going to struggle immensely. You already lost your offensive engine in Tyler Herro. Imagine if you lose your defensive engine in Bam Adebayo. Like, the team would just be out of sorts, would be in disarray. Now, luckily, there is 8 days until the season opener against the Orlando Magic on October 22nd. So hopefully he's able to take it easy and get healthy to where he doesn't miss any time. He's played in over 70 games in each of the last couple of seasons for Miami, so he has been durable. Hopefully he'll be able to go in the opener against Orlando. Also want to mention, no surprise, but Kasparas Jakucionis did not play yesterday in the preseason game. He left, obviously, on Sunday evening's game where he had hip soreness. Now, Erik Spoelstra, just like Bam said, it doesn't feel like it's a serious injury. We got more on what Spo said before the Monday preseason game on Jakucionis' injury. But obviously, other players that missed the Monday preseason game, Tyler Herro still dealing with injury, Nikola Jovic and that back soreness, as well as Rozier and the hamstring injury. So Miami's certainly dealing with a ton of injuries in the preseason, which isn't the most ideal thing in the world. Which is leading me to this question. Are you concerned about the injuries to the Miami Heat right now? A lot of key players and contributors dealing with injuries, whether they're serious or they're minor. Let me know your thoughts if you're concerned. So let's kick it back to Erik Spoelstra, who was asked about Jakucionis' hip injury, and he shed some light, saying, we don't think this is a big thing right now. We'll just get productive about it when we get back, or proactive, I should say, when we get back to Miami and take those steps. This stuff has been minor, thankfully, but also we like how he's been playing, so all things, too, can be fine in the big picture. And I think it would be huge for him to be available for Miami because although it was just one preseason game, he looked extremely playable for the Miami Heat. And I said it. I loved Jakucionis. I might have been his biggest supporter and truther when he was drafted in late June, 20th overall. But I also noted after Summer League, it's very likely he ends up starting the year in the G League just to get reps and doesn't rot on the bench. Well, then Tyler Herro gets hurt and misses the first month of the season. And Rozier has been out for multiple weeks with a hamstring injury. And now you look at your guard rotation, and it's Davion Mitchell, Dru Smith, and Kasparas Jakucionis. And you're like, well, I guess Yak is going to get some PT as that third guy. And he looked good in his preseason debut, having 10 assists, 3 turnovers, 8 points. And it's like, okay, maybe this guy can play right away for Miami, despite being a 19-year-old rookie out of Illinois. The guards are thin for the Miami Heat, which means you are going to have to lean on some players that you would have not thought you would need to before the year, because you didn't think Herro was going to miss time. You didn't think Rozier was going to miss time. So it's like, all right, Yak, we might need to have you play some big minutes for us here early in the season. So hopefully he's ultimately healthy and he'll be good to go. I expect Jakucionis to be good. I just would like to see him in the preseason finale this upcoming weekend. More takeaways and news here in just a second, but this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every single day. The right decisions on PrizePicks can get you paid. So simply, you just pick more or less on two-to-player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. How you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose Flex Play, where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for the Power Play. No matter your play, PrizePicks is a great way to put your takes to the test. And PrizePicks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can put the same player up to 3 times in your lineup, whether it is Norman Powell threes, points, rebounds. You can pick all of that in the same lineup only on PrizePicks. The season hasn't begun just yet for Miami, so we're going to football for this week's action. Less than A.J. Brown receiving yards, 67.5. More than Cam Scatteraboo touchdowns, and more than Sam Darnold passing yards is my entry for this upcoming week. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Well, we saw Bam Adebayo and Kel'el Ware in the same lineup together for the first time this preseason, something we have not seen up until last night. They've been staggering the 2 minutes. We've seen Ware have an unbelievable preseason with Jovic out of the preseason lineup. They put in Ware alongside Bam in that starting lineup. And if we're going to be honest, it wasn't the most pretty sight in the world. And it's not just Bam and Ware either. Like, the entire starting lineup did not look good. Miami went with Dru Smith, Kel'el, Bam, Wiggins, and Powell. And after the first quarter, they were trailing the Hawks reserves by 11 points. Now, they did play much better in the second quarter, making it pretty much an even game at the half. But it is interesting to note that Miami starters looked a little piss poor yesterday. And they looked offensively challenged early in the game. And I think that has to do a lot with the people missing. Like, you didn't have Jovic in that starting lineup. First time Jovic missed a game where Powell and Wiggins were playing, right? Because Powell and Wiggins didn't play on Sunday. Jovic didn't play. So it's like, okay, like Jovic, playmaker, spacer, size, not there to play with Powell and Wiggins. So I'll be honest. Obviously, Herro being out is going to give you an offensive hit. If Jovic is not available in the regular season, and Herro's not there either, this Heat offense might struggle quite a bit. But I'm not concerned right now. It is just the preseason. We'll have to see how things go in the regular season. But if you want comprehensive information around the Miami Heat that is informative and entertaining, this is the channel for you, completely for free. Subscribe today. Hit that red sub button down below. Join the Heat Report family. We're trying to get to 25K before we tip off on the season opener 8 days from now. We're about 200 away. Let's have some other news / takeaways from this game last night against the Hawks. Dru Smith, I mentioned, did start in this one. Davion Mitchell played. So the fact that they started Dru Smith over Davion was a little bit intriguing to me. And it's not me saying here that Dru Smith is better than Davion. That is not the case whatsoever. But in terms of starting in this lineup, maybe Erik Spoelstra wants to retain that role for Mitchell as that point of attack 6-man attack dog off the bench. That is very much in play here. Because Davion played more minutes than Dru Smith yesterday. He played 22 minutes in his second preseason action of the year. Was obviously better than Dru Smith because he's just simply a better player. But I am intrigued with them starting Dru Smith. Could we see an opening night lineup of Dru, Powell, Wiggins, Jovic, and Bam? Or will it be Davion and the other 4 I mentioned? The Heat have 3 locked-in starters as long as Bam is healthy. Wiggins, Powell, and Adebayo. The question is who fills in the gaps. I think it's 98% likely it's Nikola Jovic, but point guard, I assumed it was Davion Mitchell. I would start Davion Mitchell. I know Erik Spoelstra likes his ability to come off the bench and disrupt the flow of the game with his defensive presence and aggressiveness. But to me, this Heat team with Herro out can't afford to start games slowly. They can't. They can't fall behind. So get your best 5 out there. And to me, that is Davion Mitchell, Norman Powell, Andrew Wiggins, Nikola Jovic, and Bam Adebayo. Davion Mitchell needs to start for this Heat team. Another takeaway, Jaime Jaquez. Is he going to have a bounce-back year? I'll tell you what, the first 2 preseason games of the season, he was in the starting lineup. It was Triple J and then the other 4 starters we mentioned. Well, Jaquez did not look good in those first 2 preseason games. He looked out of place, didn't like he had a role, out of rhythm. Well, they moved Jaime to his more natural role off the bench as kind of like the off-ball transition, 6th-man scorer type of guy, and he's looked phenomenal ever since taking that role up. I mean, in the last 3 preseason games where he's come off the bench, he's averaging 15 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists to 1 turnover while shooting better than 55% from the field and 33% from 3. I was critical of Jaime. After the first 2 preseason games, he looked lost, but I'll make the point again. Him coming off of the bench and being the first substitution for Andrew Wiggins or Norman Powell or even Nikola Jovic is the role that he needs to have. Come off the bench, already in the flow of the game, drive to the rim, be aggressive, be a factor defensively. Jaquez looks very good, and after a poor second season, he looks more like in the last 3 preseason games like how he did as a rookie, where he was top 5 in Rookie of the Year voting and first team all-defense. So I'm excited to see Jaquez hopefully flourish off the bench this year in his 3rd season and regain some of that confidence and honestly value in the NBA if the Heat wanted to use him in a trade. Final takeaway here, Myron Gardner, he's fun, man. We've talked about Myron quite a bit here because he does currently have a 2-way contract. Miami has 2 two-way players, Myron Gardner and Vlad Golden. They have 1 2-way contract available to hand out. And Gardner is just hammering home, in my opinion, his 2-way contract because they could take it away from him anytime they want to. It's not like they would have a cap hit if they took it away like they would with a standard NBA contract. And I mean, he was aggressive. He had that late bucket to force overtime for Miami last night. Like, Myron Gardner really impressed me with his energy, his activity, and attacking presence on the offensive end of the floor. I know he only had 4 points, but he's fun, man. Energetic. I think he's going to be an intriguing guy to keep an eye on this season for the Heat G League squad in Sioux Falls, and maybe gets a couple game action this year if the Heat have a couple injuries at their wing or forward position. But either way, I think there's, without a question, him on a 2-way. Like, there is more of a chance he is on a 2-way than Vlad Golden at this point, who has been logging DNPs in the preseason so far. That'll do it for today's Heat episode. Appreciate everybody for hanging in, watching today's show. We'll be back again tomorrow with more content and throughout the rest of the week. So subscribe and join the Heat Report family.